Hi.
Hi.
Your name is Amanda?
Yes.
Okay. And your son is, what is his
Luke.
name? Luke.
And he's 7. He was hitting the physical milestones, but the speech was not progressing. So he was kind of more focused on physical than the speech. And I have a background in early intervention, so I knew at around 18 months that his speech should be a little bit further along than it was.
Okay. So was he struggling with words, or was it more forming sentences, or?
Receptive communication was great. So you could say, give him a 1 to 2 step command, go get the ball, bring it back to me. He could do that just fine. But I felt like by 18, 19 months, he should be trying to put 2 words together. It was around that time, it was during that time period of him starting speech therapy that it was suggested maybe OT would help.
Okay.
So that's what led us to Robin.
Okay.
Yeah, so he was between 4 and 5, I believe, when he started with Robin.
All right.
Yeah.
Good. Was there anything kind of different about Robin's therapy that that made you want to work with her, and as opposed to some other routes that you had looked at?
Well, I had heard Robin had a really good reputation in the community, and so I had heard really good things just about her and her approach. And so I knew that we would be in good hands. And the thing that I really liked about Robin is that she focused on like the whole child approach. And it wasn't just, it wasn't just focused on like one issue. She took the whole child into consideration, so she assessed him, and she was able to tell me things that were going on that obviously I didn't know, like core strength and those kind of things. So we were able to kind of delve a little bit deeper into some things that were going on. I thought, initially that OT was just for fine motor skills and things like that.
That's what I would have thought too.
His handwriting and things like that were great. So I didn't really understand why it was suggested that he see an occupational therapist. But once we met with her and I saw how she kind of views the whole child, she assessed the whole child, head to toe, it started kind of making sense. Right. And we had occupational therapy at a different location, and it was not the best fit for us.
Okay.
I knew the day that the therapist said, I'm looking at him and I'm asking him to do things, but it's just like it's not clicking. That was my last day of therapy.
You're like, yeah, that's why I'm here. You're trying to fix that.
Yeah. And she said, it's not like he's defiant or he's not listening. It's not like he doesn't want to do what I'm saying. It's just like it's not clicking. And I said, well, thank you for your time. And we never went back. We never went back because I was like almost shocked.
Yeah,
that
like, I know this. That's why we're here.
Exactly. And so it was after that we were led to Miss Robin, and she just immediately understood. I mean, she has a child with similar, I don't want to say issues because that sounds so negative, but
they struggle through some similar things.
Yeah.
Sure. Yeah.
And I think that when you've experienced it yourself and you've been in it, you totally get it.
Yeah.
You totally get it. And you know that it's not always like a cut and dry answer, but with Miss Robin, she was willing to tweak things. Try this for a week. Give me feedback. Tell me how he does. Tell me how his behavior is. Tell me if he seems to be responding better. And if not, then she would tweak it. And so I think once you've been a parent and you just understand that it's not always a formula, it's not always cut and dry, that I think that's what makes her a really good therapist, honestly.
Good. Did you learn anything about your child during your time with Robin?
Yes, a lot.
Like what?
Well, she was able to explain to me that auditory processing is more of like an OT kind of thing that they work on, which was so closely tied to his speech issues. So she taught me that his history of allergies and possibly allergy medications, anything like that causes your brain to change, right? And then the allergies causing like fluid in the ears, that's all going to affect the speech. And so she really taught me, that's when it really started clicking, that it was like that whole child approach, and that, the auditory processing system is tied to, it's tied to your brain. That's going to affect everything else. And so with auditory processing, it looks a lot like ADHD, You get the same kind of symptoms, different treatment, but same kind of symptoms. With auditory, I always thought, and other people think this too, that is there a hearing problem? Is your child deaf? What's going on? But what they don't realize is that your auditory system is obviously tied to your brain. So he could hear, and like the audiologist said, he can almost hear too well.
Overstimulus almost too much.
He could hear too well. So, he could hear that pin drop. In a classroom setting, you hear the guy out there mowing the lawn. You can't tune unimportant things out, right? So right now we're talking, I can hear kids playing at the park, but it's not enough of a distraction that I can't have a conversation. But when you have auditory processing difficulties, you cannot tune that out. It's just constant, and so that's why it looks like ADHD, because you're constantly distracted by these noises that are going on around you. So Robin was really able to explain to me how that works and what that looks like, and I was like, okay, it was like this puzzle that started coming together.
Now, how is Luke doing now?
He's doing great. So like I said, we're homeschooling, and we continue to, like, all these things that I've learned over the years through various therapies, with speech therapy, with Miss Robin, with OT. We've learned things that we know help him. If he has auditory processing difficulties, well, we've continued testing for that through the therapy with Miss Robin. We've saw like lots and lots of changes, for the better. Also, just working on that like equilibrium with him. I remember he could spin and spin and spin and spin, and then he could get up and walk off.
Wow.
And we thought that was just the craziest thing.
Yeah.
But she explained to me like why that was happening.
And it probably shouldn't be happening.
It shouldn't be happening.
Right.
I mean, you should be dizzy. You should be falling down.
Right.
But there was something that was thrown off because of allergies or whatever it was, that fluid in the ear. He didn't get that sensation of I'm dizzy. It's weird because he was dizzy, but he didn't look dizzy. He could still get up and walk. Does that make sense? At this point, I mean, he was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 5, almost 6. And I can honestly say that I don't see ADHD in him anymore. A thriving 7-year-old. We can come to the park now. He initiates conversations. He plays with other children. That back and forth communication is amazing. And I can tell like a little success story too, because we did 2 months of swim lessons. And it was on his last day of his lesson. His instructor said, I'm really going to miss Luke in swimming. He's a great kid. He's a great listener. And she had all these good things to say. And as a mama, that really just warms your heart. Yeah. And I don't just outright tell people, oh, my kid was diagnosed ADHD. But because we were having this conversation, it seemed appropriate. She didn't know this about him for the entire 2 months she was working with him. But I said he was diagnosed with ADHD when he was 5, almost 6. And she, like, her jaw just dropped, and she said, no way. I would never even think that. She said he actually communicates better than some of the other kids his age, because if he can't do something or he's struggling with a certain movement, a certain skill, then he will explain it to me, and he will tell me kind of what he's having trouble with. And she said other kids don't do that. Like, they may just get upset or get emotional about it. And so to me, that was not success for me as a parent, but it was success in that the therapies have worked. Just that consistency of just continually working with him. And it's truly been that village approach, because it's nothing that we could have done on our own.
Right.
Because sometimes those therapists can point out things that are going on that you can't see.
Right.
You don't know. So you have to be open and receptive to that. And then here at 7, I would say we are 100% better than where we were 2 years ago, honestly. Come a long way. Yeah, and I think therapy is to thank for that.